Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, How to Learn Any New Domain in Less Than 30 Days. I'm your host, Liva Randrebason, and on behalf of IIBA, thank you for joining us today. Today's webinar is a public event. It is designed to deliver practical resources for you as you continue to grow your skill set and deliver value within your organization. When you join IIBA, you become a member of an international association dedicated to developing and promoting the business analysis profession. Your IIBA membership gives you access to a vibrant community and resources to support your development and career growth. IIBA is a nonprofit professional association serving the growing field of business analysis. And our goal is to unite a community of professionals to create better business outcomes. As the global thought leader and voice of the business analysis community, IIBA works to maintain global standards for the ongoing development of the practice and certifications. And today's webinar is brought to you by AdaptiveUS. AdaptiveUS provides CBAP, CCBA, ECBA, Agile Analysis, Cybersecurity Analysis, and Business Data Analytics online trainings, question banks, study guides, simulators, flashcards, audiobooks, and digital learning packs. We would like to thank AdaptiveUS for supporting IIBA and the business analysis community. We're so very pleased to have Ellen Mishra with us today. Ellen Mishra is the current president and principal trainer at AdaptiveUS and has over 25 years of professional experience in agile software development, requirements analysis, business analysis and governance, risk and compliance management. Ellen has authored over 20 publications on business analysis and has conducted over 200 workshops in business analysis, requirements management, agile, software project management, and Six Sigma. Welcome, Ellen.
Thank you, Liva. Thank you, Terry. Shall I be able to share my screen now?
I am changing the presenter to you right now.
Okay, so let me share my screen and let me go to the presentation. Okay, just taking a few seconds to get into the right mode. Thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. Let me thank Liva and Terry for supporting me and supporting our organization in conducting multiple webinars with IIBA. This probably would be almost our 15th webinar with IIBA. And I'm glad that we are talking about a topic which is very interesting. And I would be able to throw some light on it because individually I have worked in more than 10 domains in the last 25 years of my BA career. So let me thank IIBA first because it has been a great thing to happen to the BA world itself. So when I started my BA career way back in 1997, the word business analysis was practically non-existent. And the role called business analyst was also not there. So initially, I worked like a management consultant. Then I joined an IT services organization where we were called functional consultants. And then, of course, over the period of time, the role of business analysts became much more popular. And today, because of IIBA, people throughout the world understand how business analysis can add value to their organization. And IIB also has done a wonderful job in terms of creating additional products around the core certification products that we had. So for something like ECBA, CCBA, CBAP, we in fact have 4 more certifications coming into place, one on cybersecurity, one on data analysis, one on agile development, and the newest one happens to be the product owner analysis. So I have taken all the 6 current available certifications with IIBA, and I have been able to complete them as well. So let's begin our topic for today. And this is a quick poll that I would like to run. So Terry, if you can run this poll for a minute or so, then we will collect the data to understand where do people find maximum difficulty in learning about a new domain.
The votes are still coming in.
So let's give about 30 seconds, I think. 30 to 40 seconds would be enough.
Okay. Looks like everyone's answers have come in. Those who participated.
Okay,
Can you see that, Alan?
It's a little tiny for me. Okay, so it looks like lack of time seems to be the major reason why people are not learning a new domain. Okay,
45%.
Yeah. Okay, but that's an interesting fact. It's an interesting fact, and I think we should find ways in which we can learn things quicker. I think that's probably the answer to it, is not to get overwhelmed about learning a new domain, because often we may feel overwhelmed, and which is what we should try to avoid. Okay, now let me go back to the presentation deck and see what you guys are seeing on the audience view. Okay, so let me minimize this one, and I can't minimize, looks like. Anyway, I will go to my presentation deck and then continue from there. Okay, so 2 minutes about our organization. I think Liva gave us a good input. We are an endorsed education provider for IIBA. We have been associated with IIBA almost close to a decade now. And we do provide certification trainings. Largely, that's what is our core business model. Of course, we have also started offering trainings on business analysis tools and other things recently. So if you visit our website, you will get to know what we do. So I would kind of skip this slide because anyway, Liva gave a nice introduction. And let me go to the next slide. Okay. So let's start with this term called domain, and that's something all of us need to understand. And I have taken the definition from BABOK itself, because that's the core study guide that I follow. Whenever I have a doubt on anything about business analysis, I go back to BABOK. So BABOK says a domain is essentially the sphere of knowledge that defines a set of common requirements, terminology, functionality for any program or initiative solving a problem. That's one definition if you are actually looking at developing a system. But in common industry parlance, if you take a look, I have taken another definition, which could be commonly used knowledge about a particular sector. Say, for example, finance can be considered as a domain, healthcare can be considered as a domain, aviation can be considered as a domain. That's the common term that we hear from our students, saying we need a business analyst with healthcare domain experience. And obviously, there is a benefit to the organization which is asking for business analysts with certain domain knowledge, because you can blend into the organization much more quickly if you have domain knowledge against if you do not have domain knowledge. So let me tell you a couple of my personal experience about trying to mold myself into a new domain. So one was we had gone to a prospect to kind of bid for a project, and I had one of my colleague who was representing our sales function, and suddenly in the discussion the client or the prospect asks us a question saying, how many FTEs you estimate this project may require? And my colleague, he came from telecom background and he had absolutely no knowledge about the domain that I was representing or my company was representing. And he was totally baffled because he did not understand this word called FTE. And the moment we baffled at that point in time, the prospect immediately knew that we are newcomers to the domain, and obviously we can't be trusted to work with them. So we lost that project. Second situation, let me tell you, I joined a client organization and we were having a meeting with a good number of domain subject matter experts. In that meeting, they started using a term called Masai. And I was totally clueless. What is this term called Masai? And the whole discussion went over my head because I did not understand this term called Masai. So I came out of the meeting and I was actually kind of feeling myself like a fool. Uh, I should not have felt like that, but I was young and I was kind of not uh, bold enough to ask in the meeting, what is this term that you guys are using? So I didn't ask and I asked it post the meeting. So the domain SME told me this stands for an abbreviation called MySci. And somehow I heard it as Masai because they were kind of eating out that I. So I asked her, what is this MySci? Then she says, this is a term used to represent a conversion from a multi-angle measurement to a single angle measurement. Might not make sense to many of you. It is an optics company, so they were trying to take picture and then convert that into optical frequency. Then I learned, okay, this is what it is. Then I decided, okay, if I want to be successful with the client, I must understand their terminology. And trust me, if you understand terminology of a particular domain, probably you have achieved 30% in that domain. It might look very, very not so convincing to you saying, will learning terminology make me 30% comfortable with a domain? But that's actually true. Okay, so we will see what is the impact of learning terminology and how you can learn terminology about a particular domain. So again, there are also activities that we club into a domain. Like today, you will see people calling e-commerce as a domain, payments processing as another domain. So those are very deep knowledge subjects. So essentially, a domain is about to understand a set of practices that gets used by large number of companies. Like e-commerce is used by so many companies, payments is used by so many companies, or it could be to understand specific sector of economy, which is finance, healthcare, agriculture, or manufacturing, or any such thing. So obviously, why should we learn a new domain? And I believe all of you are interested in learning a new domain, and that's why you are spending your time. There are domains which offer much higher growth. Okay, especially if you observe today, because of COVID and the pandemic situation that we have, digital payments will see a tremendous growth. Similarly, you will see growth in autonomous cars. So there are certain sectors which inherently grow at a faster pace, and having knowledge of that domain will allow us to find a job in that domain and earn higher as well for ourselves. So for a domain which is stagnant, you will find it difficult to grow in that particular domain. So that's one reason. Two, certain domains could get negatively impacted due to external circumstances. Like say, for example, whenever I talk to a lot of my students, people who were in the aviation sector or in the hospitality sector, they are finding it very hard because the sectors per se or the domains per se are at a reduced activity level, and this might continue for another 1 year or 2 years, we don't know. Till the time we come back to normalcy, such domains could have difficulty. So it makes sense for us to kind of learn a new domain, and we will find better job opportunities, better job security as well. See, if you have deep domain knowledge, the company would always respect you because it takes time to learn a domain, and it's not something that you can do in a very short time. Although I am promising you that you will be comfortable with a domain in 30 days, but you don't become an expert in 30 days. So the expertise that you build on a domain will always help you during rough time. Of course, you can expect better salary and you can produce better work output as well because you understand a domain, so your quality of work will always be higher. So how do we finally get about learning a new domain? So let's create an action plan for ourselves. And I go back to the very fundamental plan that was proposed by Dr. Edward Deming, which is called the PDCA cycle. And I believe many of you might know this particular cycle called Plan, Do, Check, Act. And we can apply PDCA to our domain learning process as well. So let's take a look. So the first thing that I would like you to make up your mind is to decide which domain, or maybe a couple of domains. I'm not restricting you to learn just one domain, but obviously you can't learn 10 domains. That will be very hard because learning every domain requires significant effort. So you need to be intelligent enough to decide which domain should you pursue and on what basis you decide to pursue a particular domain. Then of course, plan your learning process, follow the learning process and assess yourself whether you are better off in terms of learning the domain or not. So how do we go about deciding on the domain? So I have given a tentative timeline, as you see, because we just have 30 days in hand. We have to be prompt and we have to complete things in a time-bound manner. So you have 2 days time to decide which particular domain you would like to learn. So on what basis do we do that? So let's look at the factor. One, your academic experience and past experiences can play a role. So if you have done a master's in finance or human resources, you are automatically in a better position to learn certain domains. If you have worked in a particular domain, domains related to that domain will always be easier for you to learn. Then of course the opportunities that is coming up in the domain. So there's no point learning about a domain in which opportunities are very few, because it will be again hard enough to capture that domain. But also I think it's important to remember the supply side story as well. So it's always a question of supply versus demand. So there could be domains which are not very large, but the supply could be extremely low. So if the supply is extremely low, even if the number of opportunities are small, because of supply constraint, you can actually get a good job. And that's how I landed up with the optics company, because it's very hard to get a business analyst in the optics domain. And that's how I got that project, and I worked with that client for 4 years. But in general, it's good to look at domains which have at least some level of opportunities available to you, because if the opportunities are extremely less, then it's like a hit and miss kind of a case. You either hit it or you completely miss it. So look at the domains which are going to grow in next decade or so. Then your personal SWOT as well. Please understand, are you good at mathematics? Are you good at science? Or are you good at something very typical of you? And those strengths could help you to learn a new domain. So it depends on that as well. So if my strength is not in mathematics and I try to get into investment banking, I'm going to be a misfit to a large extent in trying to learn investment banking as a domain, because investment banking is a very mathematical domain. Not all domains are mathematical, but some domains can be quite mathematical. Then I'm going to show you a couple of maps, which I believe can help you to make some kind of a decision about the particular domain that you would like to learn. So let this come up, and the map that I'm presenting here is not necessarily a research paper. It can always be questioned. It can always be enhanced, but at least at a high level, I could classify certain sectors and industries in this. So I kind of took economy as a whole on the top, and then I said, usually we can classify economic activities into three categories: manufacturing, agriculture, and services. Again, in manufacturing, you could have different types of manufacturing organizations, those who produce discrete, follow discrete process, or those who follow continuous process. And in continuous, you have chemical, energy, something else. In services, we have professional services, healthcare, telecom, finance, education, blah, blah, blah. So this is one map. And if you have worked in one particular sector, it automatically makes you comfortable with other domains in that sector. Like if you have worked in equipment, maybe you will be able to work in auto much more easily. So this is one map which you can refer. Then the other map also I try to create, which you can see a lot of bubbles coming up in front of you. And this is something I wanted to kind of map out for you. The domains which are adjacent to each other. Like say, for example, if you have worked in compliance, pharma is a domain which requires a lot of compliance related solution. Okay, pharma and healthcare are close by. Manufacturing and pharma could be close by. Banking and investment would be close by. Professional services and education would be close by. Aviation will have some kind of an overlap with retail. So this is the map again you can refer to and try to understand the domain that you're trying to learn. Is it too far for me? Like say aviation and investment, they're quite far apart domains. So maybe it'll be a little harder for you to move from there to here. From aviation, moving to retail may be relatively easier. From aviation to distribution, it may be easier. From aviation to hospitality, it may be easier. So if two domains are close by, it's easy to move in. But if the domains are far apart, it's a bit hard. Again, let me kind of tell you very clearly, this is my personal thought process. It's not something like a research paper by a university. I couldn't get anything better than this, and this is what I created based on my experience. And I'm trusting you will find some value in this particular map. So I call it as domain affinity map. Okay. So good. So now that we know that we want to focus on a particular domain to learn, then we need to plan our learning process and give yourself a couple of days to do that. Because the majority of the time we should be spending on learning that particular domain. So what are the things that we do in the plan? So the first thing that I will say you must do is to identify authoritative resources. Today, resources are not scarce, unlike the time when I started my business analysis career. Those days, getting a good resource was extremely hard. Today, we are actually probably flooded with resources coming from hundreds of places. So please identify resources which you can trust, like say, for example, resources coming from IIBA, resources coming from APQC. There are institutions which you can trust for the quality of resource they provide. Don't go and look for resources from places where the resource quality can be questioned. So one of the places that I have gone frequently and found fantastic resource is APQC. So I'm actually going to spend a little time on APQC publications. I think it's probably there in the next slide. So I'll go to APQC in the next slide. Then you can also find resources from relevant industry associations. A lot of industry associations publish processes and practices and vocabulary for their industry, and that's a great source. Of course, there are many publications which also you can refer, and I trust IIBA Digital Library can also be a fantastic place to learn about domain. So let me do one thing. Let me log into the IIBA Digital Library and show you certain domain related resources. Just give me a second. Good that I'm already logged in. Benefits, my IIBA. Okay. Benefits chapter resources. 1 second. Let's see, page. Okay, so these are the publications, but I'm more interested in the digital library. So let me go to the digital library. So I believe all of you are members of IIBA. In case you are not a member, this is a public webinar, so anybody can join. But I would strongly recommend you to become a member because there are a good number of very high quality resources available to you once you are a member of IIBA. So let it come. It's a bit slow because I'm running a webinar at the same time, but just let's hold on for a minute. So management and leadership, business systems. Okay, is there on? So let me search on manufacturing. Suppose I'm interested to become a domain knowledge person. See here, industry overview manufacturing. So this is a very good resource if you are interested to learn about manufacturing domain, and it's also a very neat one, just 24 pages. Then Toyota Way, this again could be another great resource. Mass customizations, manufacturing planning and control system for supply chain management. If you are interested in supply chain domain, this could be a great resource. Okay, so once you're a member of IIBA, you automatically have access to good number of domain resources which you can take and start using. So let me go back to the deck and continue from there. It's always good if you can find a mentor for yourself. Maybe in your organization, there's somebody whom you respect for the knowledge that the person carries. Make him or her a mentor. And that's a great way to learn a domain because it can save you months and months of effort. So always kind of look out for a mentor and also look for possible certifications that you can take at the end of your learning process, because a certification would provide you the confidence that you have learned the domain well, and it can also help you when you're looking for a job. Because if the prospective client or the company is looking at two resumes and one resume shows a certification in their domain, they're likely to pick that person. And of course, we will prepare a detailed study plan saying this is how we will move. Then again and again, I will keep repeating, start with learning the vocabulary of the domain. Today, if you go to internet, you will find resources providing vocabulary for any domain. So for example, if I'm interested in learning about insurance, so I could just go to internet and say insurance vocabulary. See here. So you get glossary of common insurance terms, and it's published by the company called Nationwide, which is an insurance company. So you can actually see all the terms here. Okay, you can see here. So people have been very kind enough today to put a lot of resources, knowledge online without any cost. So please do take a look at this. Then let me see. Okay, so this is something, a message from Terry. So please look for a good resource like this and go through each term and try to understand what does this term actually mean in business context. Okay, then the second resource which I will strongly recommend to you is called APQC PCF. And that's an abbreviation, don't worry so much. I am going to go to the APQC website. It's apqc.org/PCF. The PCF stand for Process Classification Framework, which are essentially telling you how companies in different domains operate. Okay, so there is something called an universal PCF, which is common to all industries, or you have industry specific PCF, and this could be a lot more helpful for you. Okay, so what are the sectors for which PCF is available? It's aerospace and defense, airlines, automotive, banking, broadcasting, city government, consumer electronics, consumer products, corrosion, downstream petroleum, education, healthcare, health insurance, life science, property and casualty insurance, retail, telecommunication, upstream petroleum, and utilities. So you can see how rich PCFs have been created and they are available to you. So I'm just going to show you one of the PCFs. Just give me a second. Let me just get you a PCF document. I would have it in my hard disk as well. And I'm just going to show you one of the PCFs. These are all freely downloadable and you can use them. So as you look through the PCF, they tell you about the way higher level processes work in a company. And not only that, they actually get deeper into the fourth level of detail. So you can actually see here, it almost goes to every task that you may encounter in that particular domain. Okay, so, and the total list of tasks that they have provided is about 1,000. So they have listed 1,000 tasks happening in a particular domain. So this could be helpful for you to learn the vocabulary and also understand how the entire domain works. Okay, so please use this particular document because this can give you a fair idea about how the domain operates. Okay, and then if you are able to find some kind of a volunteering or internship opportunity with any of the domain players, you should pick it up. Because if you are looking for a job and you are not in a job right now, you may have some time in hand to pick up an internship opportunity with a company of your domain or the domain that you wish to go to. Then there are a lot of industry events which are happening today. I see on my LinkedIn portal a lot of events being declared, and some of the events could be of interest to your learning as well. IIB, of course, runs a lot of events, and I was also requesting IIB team to kind of focus a bit more on the domain side as well. Like we have started publishing the BOKs, a body of knowledge for different aspects of business analysis. We could also publish simple guides for different domains, and that can be quite helpful for business analysts. So that's just a request from my side. Hopefully, maybe in 2022, we would have some domain related publications happening from IIBA itself. So I was just showing you the APQC PCF, and that's a great place to start your domain learning process. Another one I would suggest, we are actually launching a series of videos on something called Handbook of Business. That's again built on a PQC PCF, where we are explaining different processes, but that's more from a domain agnostic process point of view, but that still will be very, very helpful. Because please remember, when we look at APQC, there are processes which are quite common across domains. Like say, for example, if you take a look at the bottom 6 processes that APQC says, these are more or less domain agnostic. So if you have worked on environmental health and safety, you can possibly move to any company in any sector as long as they have an impact on environment. So especially manufacturing companies, logistics companies, they would have a lot of environmental aspects to take care of. So you can actually move across. Similarly, if you have knowledge of finance, you can move across the companies because finance is common across companies. It's not that exactly same, but a lot of aspects are very, very similar. So learning one of these subdomains can be very helpful because in that way you can fit yourself into a new company much more easily. Back to our discussion. One more request to all of you. I believe it makes a lot of sense to become a premier member of LinkedIn Learning. I have been a LinkedIn Learning person for quite some time, and I see that LinkedIn has been very aggressively publishing a lot of learning content as part of their learning initiative. So for a small fee, you will get access to a good plethora of very high quality resources. So that's one useful thing. And I'm hoping that LinkedIn will also publish certain assessments on different domains. So we are talking to LinkedIn to kind of see if we could participate in the content creation process and provide certain domain related assessments to our students. This is probably something IIBA can consider as well. Then the third thing I would like to ask you to do is to look for a handbook on your domain. Most domains have a handbook published, like I have put an image of the retail handbook. And these ones are generally quite authoritative, and they do provide you a glimpse of the vocabulary, they provide you a glimpse of entire domain processes, and this could be great resources for any new beginner. And this is one way I learn. And in general, I buy the physical copy of the book because I can highlight it, I can write some notes on it. If you can get hold of the physical paper copy, that's always better. Or if the company is allowing you to print the ebook, that's also another option that you have. Then another thing I would tell people who are really looking for opportunity or looking for their first job, you could consider getting yourself certified in a domain and look for certification which is at the lowest level. Don't try to go for the higher level certification because those may be much more complex. Those may require a lot of learning and time and cost as well. So look for the lowest level certification that you can get for that particular domain. And if you get yourself certified in that particular domain, your resume will have a lot more value because the client organization or prospect understands that you are familiar with the domain, you understand the domain terminology, and you're keen in pursuing a career in that particular domain. So I've given some examples here. It's not necessarily exhaustive, but this could be a good list to build on. Now we have completed our planning phase, and then we actually get into the learning process and give yourself about 20 days to do that. And the simple rule is follow your study plan, make notes on your own doubts. So this is something very helpful. Please create a Word document. Like I can show you a document which I created recently when I wanted to learn about data analysis domain. And I will show you my notes for that. See, like you can see here. Ellen's notes on data analytics because it's a new domain for me. So I made a note for myself. I wrote the comments just so that I understand these terms very well. Statistics, analytics, how they're similar, how they're different. So all that notes I made, this is my personal note. Okay, so I would request all of you to make a similar document so that you can capture the doubts and learning here. And if you have a mentor, you can actually go and ask the mentor about your doubts, which is what I did. So I found a gentleman in my community who was a data scientist. So I went and approached him and I asked him for 30 minutes of his time when he explained my doubts to me. So always do that, and trust me, this can save you hours of torture. Then of course we today have Google, and Google itself is a great source of learning, and please use that as well. Then keep a day for assessing yourself. One, if you have the level 1 test, please take the test. And I'm believing that domain certifications will become reasonably popular going forward, and organizations will kind of publish the assessment process. At least for us, we may plan a couple of domain certifications by the end of next quarter. but we are kind of quite new. I believe there are other organizations which can help you in getting yourself assessed and certified. And this is where I believe IIBA also can play a role in terms of creating some kind of entry-level certifications which IIBA members can take. So one thing, let's remember, let's not be hesitant to learn a new domain. Whoever you consider expert to a domain, in a domain today, that person was a novice at some time back. So everybody starts like a novice and then builds on. So don't worry that you don't know the domain. And another thing I will always say, even if you don't become great in these 30 days in your cherished domain, it's still okay. Because when you're talking to an interviewer, they will appreciate your interest and effort to learn a new domain. So that will definitely land you in a much better position compared to somebody who has not made any effort to learn the domain. That's about it. This is what I wanted to communicate to you folks today. And I have been lucky enough to work in 10 different domains. Some domains have been easier for me, some have been hard, but at least I have managed and I have been able to satisfy my customers' demands. I can take questions now.
Thank you, Eden. I'm actually also a big fan of Plan, Do, Check, and Act. So thank you for sharing that. The first question I wanted to address, there was a question about information to the IIBA Product Owner Certification. So more information will be shared to the BA community this week. So I just wanted to address that.
Great.
Then the second is more of a tip that we received from Courtney, and you talked about LinkedIn certifications. She mentions that her local library offers free access to LinkedIn Learning. So if you have a library membership card, then you should be able to have access to that. And she was actually able to obtain a few certifications using this platform,
Wow,
which is great.
that's good. Yes, please, let's go ahead. Yeah.
And the next question I had for you was about, do you have, other than the CCA, and there's also other certifications out there, other than the CCA, what are the recommendations one can have to strengthen their cybersecurity proficiencies and marketing and cybersecurity proficiencies?
CCA is more targeted towards cybersecurity. So I have seen people looking at trainings and certification on ISO 27001, which is the information security standard from ISO. Some people also look at CISSP, but CISSP is a lot harder exam. It requires a lot of preparation. CCA is a great one as such, and maybe you can look at something related to ISO 27K if you're looking at something augmenting CCA, because there are a lot of resources on 27K as well.
Great. Thank you. Another tip from the community from Wade. Understanding the terminology is critical. One of the things that he does is to create the glossary that is shared with the entire team.
Yes, of course. That's a very good thing to do, because every domain is unique. So not understanding the glossary will always create challenge for us.
Exactly. There are a lot of great questions, actually. So I think you covered I believe you covered a PDF on healthcare. Could you please share the path to that?
Not healthcare. It's exactly what I was showing you is the APQC website on which different PCFs are there. These are PCF available in PDF and Excel. So you can actually go to apqc.org. So let me mention that here. You have to create a free membership account and then you can download. You just need to create a free membership account.
Thank you for the clarification. How can I gain more knowledge if I'm starting as a digital business analyst role?
Okay. See, this digital BA is something that we need to understand. Digital itself is a huge domain, and I don't expect anybody to become expert at everything. So look at a subdomain within digital. So in general, people put it as SMSC, so which could stand for social media, then mobility, then agile, and I think C is cloud. No, not agile, analytics, sorry. Okay, and cloud migration. So it depends on your interest. Please take a look. Each of these have tremendous potential, and each one of them can land you in a good job. So which one among them you would like to really master? And don't try to master all four. That's, I think, a very hard thing to do. Rather, you kind of focus your energy in learning one of these subdomains. That's more than enough.
Great, and I think that also can be applied to, so somebody asked a similar question where, how do you apply all this knowledge that you learn when you're actually trying at the same time to learn how do you apply this to internal departments when you're quickly trying to learn about them and their processes?
True. If you're looking at an existing organization and if they have, so suppose this is an existing internal function, look at their process manuals. Many of them might have published something called a process manual for them. This could be a good resource for you to learn about that department. Maybe they have written some other documents like department overview. Usually people create such documents because these are helpful for inducting any new person to the team. So look at some kind of an induction manual, if they have anything like that, induction manual. This can be a great way to learn about an internal function.
A tip from Leah is that something that that was done is to keep notes in the calendar of what the person did that day, so that you can solidify your knowledge on the topics.
Of course,
and have a
yeah.
repository of things, when things were done. So that was a great tip, Leah.
Yeah, keep note of your activities of a domain SME, if you can track one, or your own activities. Yes.
So a couple of questions around analytics or business data analytics. And you have touched upon that. What are the certification that the IIBA or the information that IIBA can offer to enhance these skills in that domain?
Oh, okay. IIBA does have a certification on data analytics, which is CBDA, and we do offer a training on CBDA as well. So if anybody is interested, you could write to IIBA, you could write to us. There is certification and training available. And this is a great course for anybody who is into reporting type of project, or you're trying to convince your stakeholders with data. So as such, I would trust everybody should learn analytics because it's helpful for us as a BA. But those who are into the reporting type of project, it's very, very helpful for them.
Great, thank you. Another great question. So it's about, so is it a good idea to mention the domain that we are yet to learn or in the process of learning on the resume while applying for a job?
Of course. See, let's understand what the other party is looking for. They are looking for a motivated individual who is willing to learn a new topic. So as long as you can show your motivation and progress, many clients will be okay. Like when I joined the optics domain, I didn't have any clue, but I convinced the client that I'm willing to learn that domain, and that's how they hired me.
That's a great tip. So one of the questions, a very specific question, is about the domain affinity map that you had shown us. So our domain is, so the question is, our domain is very large and complex. Do you think that a domain affinity map made by our own, which divide our large domain in several little domains, could be useful to us?
You can drill it down. I'm not saying like healthcare as such is a huge domain. So you could actually partition healthcare into provider, caregiver, something like that. You can do it. It's just that I'm trying to tell you at a very high level, there are domains which are close to each other and there are domains which are far away from each other. So somebody in distribution trying to learn about this investment would be a little long journey. Not that it is not possible, but the journey would be a little longer. Whereas from distribution to compliance or distribution to manufacturing, maybe easier movement. That's all I'm trying to say.
I have a couple of questions around specific domain certifications, and if you do know the answer, specifically around, so one is healthcare, the second one is banking, and the third one is airline. Would you know of any certification in this
I
domain?
really don't know. These are three domains which
Okay.
I haven't worked on. But I trust most of the common domains would have certification. Like for banking, I know there are a lot of institutions which do provide banking training and certification. Banking is a very, very large segment. I don't think you will find it difficult. In aviation, I'm not very sure if there is an certification, but I think just do a quick little Google search, it should tell you, or talk to somebody who is in that domain. So it's impossible for any single BA to work on so many domains, and domains are becoming larger and more complex. But I would trust every domain would have some kind of certification available. That will be very unusual if there is nobody providing a certification for a domain.
So actually a quick tip from Spencer for the person who's asking about airlines. You can go to IATA. I'll try to. I'm going to see if there's a way to copy. Yes, there's a way to copy and paste in the general chat to the entire audience.
Okay, should be IATA, International Travel Association, something like that. IATA. Yes, IATA certification. IATA online certification certificates. Yeah, here comes IATA certifications.
Perfect.
Yeah, digital certificate, IATA certificate. Yeah, this is I think for airlines.
Correct. And we have 1 minute left, so I wanted to ask you, how do we contact you if we have if the audience has more questions?
Good. So my mail ID is here. Let me put it here. Those of you who want to reach me, it's quite simple. My name and our company domain.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ellen. Just a quick reminder that the recording and the copy of the presentation will be available within 7 business days on our IIBA archives. So please do check back when it's available, and you also have Ellen's contact information as well. But thank you so much, everybody, for attending today's webinar, and have a good afternoon. Thank you, or evening or morning. And Ellen, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, as always.
Yeah, thank you, Liva. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.